What's up, baby? How are you doing? When I was a small child, of course I don't remember it, my parents told me, as children played in the kindergarten, I used to build houses for worms and talk to birds. I've been doing this since childhood. I can't imagine my life without animals. I have always had animals of one kind or another in my life. With each new animal, I left home because I was not allowed to keep them. They would bring me back, but I would come back only with an animal. It was like this for a long time. I had 10 to 15 animals at the same time. I mean, some birds, a blind kitten. I fed them all and then let them go. There were two swans whose wings were cruelly broken off by the people. I wanted to be a biologist or a vet. The profession of a veterinarian is quite difficult. When everything is fine, no one needs you. Vets see only suffering. There are very few positive emotions. You see, he's already clutching his leg. Don't bite me. It was 1999, April. I started building this equestrian club. It was the first private club like this in Ukraine. Since I was 15, I had a dream to change this whole system, to change the attitude towards horses, to change the training regime for sports horses, which is quite cruel in traditional sports. I'm especially saddened by the fact that if a horse brings you regalia or money, it is cherished. If, God forbid, a horse is injured and cannot run, it becomes useless. When you see this, it is very upsetting. So I saw my goal as changing this attitude. All the elite of the sport told me, you know, with your humanity, everyone tried, but no one showed results in sport. There are two ways to make a deal with an animal, either to force it or to agree. I chose to agree with them. In fact, to teach people the language of horses. Then it is easy to work with them. It does what you want anyway. You don't have to beat them or force them. I decided to give it a try. I started competing and won 11 out of 12 international tournaments. I hoped that people would come to me to learn how to do it. And people did come. But then they said, no, it's not that easy. It's easier to beat them with the stick. They will run this way. They won't run any other way. And I was so depressed because I didn't understand why I was doing all this then. Baby, my baby, how are you? Are you okay? Oh, you're such a little baby. Yeah, well, a cat is a cat. My beauty. This is an enclosure for foxes and raccoons that must, and since there is nowhere to keep him, I had to put him here. It's good that he is calm. I had him in a normal enclosure and a tiger came. You can't put a tiger, he'll get out in 5 seconds. This is a tiger from the Kharkiv region. He came here unable to walk on his legs. He was without hair. Now he is more or less fine and we are preparing him for departure. I'm the one who works with animals. What are you afraid of? I'm looking for an employee who is like me. Are you afraid of water? This is hard and rather black labor. He wants to, but he is afraid of a crowd. The animals are wild. Those that return to nature, which is very important, should remain wild. They won't bite you, don't be afraid. And then it happened by chance that I was requested by the anti-poaching team to save a lioness. I said, how do you imagine that? I have an equestrian club, a lioness. But when they showed her to me, of course, my heart skipped a beat. I realized that this was a matter of hours, not even days. She was in an extremely exhausted condition with a broken spine. It was a serious case. Of course, no one took her. Overnight, we built a small enclosure where we could start her rehabilitation, and in the morning, I took her away. I then created a page on Facebook. It was called Shelter for a Lioness. I started asking people if they had any old metal fences. We would use it, recycle it, but she needed to be provided with some normal conditions. Instead of help, I received requests. Help, there is a lion dying, a tiger dying, a bear they wanted to euthanize. Of course, it's much easier to refuse in this case. I believe that every life is important, so I was looking for ways to help these animals, and that's how it all started. The lioness lived with me for 4 years and got back on her feet. It was not just a lioness, but a human being. How grateful and intelligent she was. It was actually a family member, and in this war, she died. What's up, baby? No one is hurting you. He's been with me for a long time, but when he sees a stick in my hands, he gets nervous. No one ever hurts him. Silly, it's all right. Go swimming. Oh, come on. It is up to you. At the moment, I have 32 animals. There are 3 lions, 3 tigers, and 1 leopard. So there are 7 wild cats. There are squirrels, raccoon dogs, raccoons, and whoever else. There are swans, deer, and what else? Hedgehogs, beaver, badger, hares. All sorts of animals come here. If I can help, I won't refuse anyone. Whoa, these hares are brave. It's amazing. We have already rescued whatever is possible. I met a lot of species during this war. I've heard that they exist, but I had never seen them before. As for our wild fauna, they are usually hurt by snares, traps, or hit by cars. Mostly they were brought by caring people or by the cave animal rescue group. As for exotic animals, they are mostly brought by animal protection organizations. People like to keep them in a private yard or at a restaurant in small cages or concrete, and we rescue them from such places. I had up to 40 wild animals, including hedgehogs and some small birds. At that time, I had 6 lions and 7 tigers, which were already being prepared for departure to Europe. We do not stockpile animals. We are not a zoo. We did this before the war and even more so now. We take in animals, treat them, provide the necessary assistance and rehabilitate them, and then, if possible, the animal is returned to the wild. If for some reason it is not possible, then we look for good conditions where it can spend its life in comfort, in conditions closer to the natural environment with good specialists. As for lions and tigers, we send them abroad because there are no facilities for lions in Ukraine. Well, for lions and tigers, I mean wild cats. I saved them precisely because I realized that they will be in super conditions afterwards. For example, we transferred lions to South Africa. There are enclosures of 4 hectares per lion in their native climate. What could be better? Then you see the video, well, it impresses me. I see how they live. This is a positive thing for me. I don't save them to put them in a cage and be happy that the lion loves me. Don't bite me. Wouldn't you like to step aside a little? Go. No one expected that. We had a scheduled surgery on the 23rd, a vasectomy of the lions. It was about 4:30 when I went to bed. And all my life I have had a rather inadequate reaction to fireworks. Horses are very frightened, they got hurt. When I hear the explosion, I realized that my animals were already in trouble. I was returning to the animals, and on my way, I was trying to turn my head to find the point where the fireworks were launched, so I could know who to kill later, so to speak. But nothing was lightening up anywhere. It was just firing, and there was no gunfire, so I couldn't figure out what was going on. Then I went off, and the ground shook under my feet. I just ran into the stables when the guard came in and said that the war had started. Many animals are injured, hitting the bars of the enclosures. A raw deer died, which we were just about to release into the wild. We planned to release it in 2 days. It was already cured and rehabilitated, and on the first day the ground was shaking, and we even ran out several times, thinking that something had hit our territory. It was so loud. Before the full-scale invasion, there had never been such a large number of them. Almost every corner is taken. They keep coming and coming, and you can't say no. Recently, our lions went to Europe, so life became a little easier, and everyone asks where you get them. I had lions here and there. I couldn't even clean properly. You don't go to someone else's lion who is aggressive. And of course, any lion there would be aggressive from the area we were taking them out of, and it was a new place for them. It was a tough situation. And when we got a request, a lioness was running around Kharkiv. She had run away from someone. Of course, we went to pick her up because they would have shot her. She got into some sort of detached houses district. When we arrived within 15 minutes, she was already in our car. We were leaving the Kharkiv region and I had the lioness in my transport cage and I had nowhere to put her. I called everyone. Temporarily, I said, even for 2 weeks. So then I had to move my son out of the room to give this room to her. A week later, my lions went abroad, a group of them. Then I took her here. It happens in different ways. That lioness is now in the Netherlands. Since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, I had up to 40 wild animals here. And in the first days of war, I managed to take all my animals to Europe without documents, without anything. I couldn't leave them because of the bombings here. And I still had more than 100 animals here. We were very afraid that they might not be a second chance and a second car, so we loaded them all up to the ceiling in one car and they left, so we sent them abroad. The first ride was terrible. I had, I don't remember, 3 or 4 cages in total, and I was transporting 7 tigers and 6 lions. They put the tigers under anesthesia, but put them in the wooden boxes and made holes with a drill so they could breathe. We couldn't even be sure how they came round after anesthesia. There was no access because they were traveling from here for 3 days. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. 2 days without food is fine, but 2 days without water is critical. The third day was coming to an end. I could neither eat or sleep, and you can't do anything. There are drivers who will not even open a compartment for lions. We transfer all the animals during the war in cooperation with the Poznan Zoo in Poland, and from there they go to their permanent homes. When Yeva, the director of the Poznan Zoo, met them, they reloaded everything, fed them, watered them, and she called me and said that everyone was alive and well. It may not sound like that, but this war gave many animals a chance for a normal life, because there was no chance to get them out of that cage, which was 1.5 by 2 meters on concrete and had nothing. And from that moment, we took the first ride out. I started receiving requests. I got a call from the UA Animals team when Russians and Chechens entered the Yasnohorivka ostrich farm, burned everything there, tore it up, so they asked if I could help. And as soon as they gave a short signal after the Russians left the farm and they were 300 meters away in the woods, we crawled in, so to speak, and we picked up those animals that were almost dead but still breathing. And since then, the work has been in progress. We save animals from war. They are mostly found by the military who are fighting there, and the animals are abandoned. They come to me because no one else is doing it. When there is a request, a lion, a bear, a wolf, serious animals that an ordinary person who rescues dogs and cats cannot take away, then I go personally. This is still quite a serious process, and no doctors agree to go there, of course. We have come under fire many times. In my opinion, only an idiot is not afraid. For example, you go there if at first you had some illusions that you could escape from a rocket in a bus or something else, then when you see it all, you realize that you're not going and you will either get hit or not. If you don't go, then why did you come here, right? You can't be afraid all the time. You'll just go crazy. I am an unprofessional anesthesiologist. I started doing this work in a place where no other doctor wants to go. So thank God that the first trips there was still mobile communication. The doctor and I were in touch. She told me what to do and I did it. The first dozen times it was not just that my hands were shaking. I can't even describe that state. The worst case was in Bakhmut. There was a bear that could not stand on its feet at all, completely exhausted. There was a hole in the roof, probably pierced by a shrapnel. The roof was about 1.80 meters high, and he did not come out, so imagine his condition. A normal healthy bear would have left that place in 3 to 5 seconds. How could you anesthetize that animal? There was no communication there. You can't ask for advice. Not only were my hands shaking, but I couldn't get the needle into the syringe, even when I had already figured out the dose and how to choose it. And then the shelling started. Unlike our team, I was not afraid of the shelling, because when you drive in, it's everywhere, and I didn't even pay attention to that at all. You get used to it because it hits like that all the time. Besides, I had a bear there at that time. The military was shouting. They said we should leave. I said, how can we leave? And the bear, we'll be back in an hour. I told them, you go, I'll stay here. Because I had to help a bear. Everyone was in shock, but for different reasons. Such an abnormal whistle, and there was silence. I looked up, and one of these mines was flying straight towards us, and I realized that I hadn't imagined it. The military used to tell me that you cannot hear your own mine, and I realized that it meant that it was ours. The military were right. You won't have time to run away there. My first thought was, what about the bear? And I realized that we were both going to fall down. There was so much gunfire, the sky was smoky, and there was a hole so you can see the blue sky. I thought I'll look at it for the last time. And then there was such a blow, but not an explosion. It was not clear. You know how it is. You're already flowing somewhere and it's so far away. I couldn't figure out where. I thought my body must be torn apart under my feet. I looked down, everything was the same. I looked around, everyone was still there. The surroundings hadn't changed, and I couldn't understand where I was. I don't know what it's like after death. And that one of the soldiers said, "Damn, I didn't explode." They immediately grabbed the bear. I couldn't believe it. I had already said goodbye to my life. After that fight, I now understand what is a post-traumatic syndrome. They risked their lives to save an animal there. It's inspiring, it's a low blow. I doubt that the ogres have such cases. I constantly send them photos and videos, and they are very grateful. When they are on rotation, they even come to see these animals. They are inspired when they see them in a good place, in a good condition. Our nation is definitely invincible when this is possible. I really feel passionate about this. How can you not go there, not be afraid when people like this are ready to do it? Just don't leave the straight path. Come right, tiger. Tiger, come here. They don't bite. Imagine such big animals. Just imagine what happened to them. They are afraid of people. These are us. It's us who have to shake. He was rescued from the Kharkiv region a long time ago. He was in a difficult condition. She's very exhausted. She has an old leg fracture. I love all of my cats, probably Tiger because she's in such a need of attention now. It is impossible to get her out of that state because she eats very poorly. It's a whole adventure to convince her to eat. Baby, eat. But we are fighting for it. As soon as she comes to her senses, gets in a condition to be put under anesthesia, we will operate on her and try to return this limb. Oh, you come, my dear. You come, my girl. My good girl. Are you complaining? Go run. I I realized that I'm doing a useful thing. All my life, it had been difficult for me to find a common language with people. With animals, it's very easy. That's why I feel very comfortable now. Every animal, every plant exists for a reason. It performs a certain function, and if this is removed, the ecosystem is disrupted, and the planet will simply cease to exist. And we are part of it, of course. People already do a lot of damage. It's even surprising that our planet can withstand our damage for so long. This is very important. This is our ecology. This is our future in general. That's why I chose this direction and help wildlife. With this shelter, yes, I also see a lot of suffering, because animals come from various bad situations. But there is also a positive side to this, because when an animal recovers, when it is possible to release it into the wild, and I see it all, I do it myself, it gives you a lot of adrenaline and good emotions. Or if you can't release animals like lions and bears into the wild, but when we send them to a good rehabilitation centers with hectares of land, to the forest, it's very cool. This is also inspiring. This hedgehog had a broken hip joint. It had a severe fracture, and there was little chance that it would be able to recover before being released. But you can see that everything turned out very well.